Stay connected, stay informed. The Top 5 at 5 from KOMO News. Sponsored by All City Fence.
I'm Elisa Jaffe, and here are our top 5 stories.
I'm Ryan Harris. Washington's hospital leaders say they're just about stretched to the max because of COVID. They're not only so short-staffed that they can't expand their capacities, but they're running out of equipment, including breathing machines. Mike Glenn, CEO of Jefferson Healthcare in Port Townsend, says they're also seeing more patients positive for COVID, but coming in for other things.
It's a thing related to just higher community prevalence rates of COVID.
And they say it's because so many people are unvaccinated.
Linwood City Hall will once again close for in-person services. The city blames rising COVID-19 rates as well as the virus's impact on staffing. Starting tomorrow, online and over-the-phone services will be available for those needing to contact City Hall, as well as Linwood's Development and Business Services office. Oregon health officials reported more than 5,500 new coronavirus cases and 40 new deaths over the weekend. That brings the statewide case total to nearly 275,000 since the pandemic first began. Hospitalizations remain high. Currently, there are more than 1,100 COVID patients in hospital beds across Oregon.
I'm Jeff Pogel. Now that all American troops have withdrawn from Afghanistan, Congress is about to look into what happened and what went wrong. Washington Democrat Susan DelBene.
I think there will be a strong role for oversight as we look at the decisions that were made.
Republicans have already been quick to criticize President Biden's handling of the withdrawal, with Congressman Dan Newhouse last week introducing a resolution condemning the president.
The Schneider Springs fire continues to burn and has now charred more than 80,000 acres. There are more than 700 firefighters currently working to battle the flames burning west of Nile. Crews say they've been able to work on containing the fire edge while holding it inside current containment lines to protect private property and infrastructure. Still ahead on KOMO News.
I'm Carlene Johnson. Yellow umbrellas, American flags, ribbons tied to trees, a display on Alki for American troops in Afghanistan.
KOMO News time 5:04. Time for an update on our traffic. We do that every 10 minutes on the 4s from the Dubin Law Group Traffic Center. Where are the problems, Tama?
Let's start at the top and head our way south. In Seattle, we have a crash on northbound 5 just before I-90 that's blocking the left lane. That's causing a backup from Columbian Way as you're heading into downtown Seattle. A crash in Shoreline on northbound 5 just before 175th Street is over on the right shoulder. However, there are aid units arriving at the scene. Traffic's already slow and go from 145th Street, and I'm expecting that might block another lane approaching that area. Still watching a couple of crashes in Kent, one on southbound 5 just after South 260th Street that's taking up the right lane, causing a solid backup from South Center Boulevard. Also in Kent on southbound 167 at the ramp from Kent Des Moines Road, a crash. It's partially blocking. Southbound 167 is really heavy as you're heading through that area, partly because of a concert tonight at White River Amphitheater that has the doors opening in just about an hour. At JBLM, still watching a crash on southbound 5 just south of JBLM's main gate that's blocking the left lane. That's causing a solid backup from Thorn Lane, adding 15 minutes to your drive. Our next KOMO traffic at 5:14.
And here's Shannon O'Donnell with the forecast.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a happy back to work, and in many cases, back to school Monday to you. It definitely feels like back to school. It's overcast out there and cool. Temps just in the low 60s for most of us for this Monday afternoon. Slightly warmer tomorrow. We'll start to burst out of that low overcast with at least partly cloudy skies and mid-60s in the works, and just a few lingering showers on Tuesday. 1st of September, back to school for a lot of the Seattle area kids, at least the public schools. Highs closer to 70 on that Wednesday afternoon, the first day of the new month. In the KOMO Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell.
And let's see, 5:06, we have 64 degrees in Olympia, 64 degrees at SeaTac. And in case you're wondering, that concert at White River, it's the Jonas Brothers. A Northwest politician worries last week's suicide bombing at the Kabul airport makes the Taliban look reasonable in comparison. Paul Evans served tours in Iraq and Afghanistan before becoming an Oregon state representative.
When we allow the Taliban to be seen as quote-unquote legitimate and this new ISIS-K as the extremists, we've moved the pendulum so far to the wrong side of the measure that I'm very concerned about what that means for us in the future.
Evans tells K2 in Portland the time to consider that future should begin following today's final U.S. withdrawal and should include as many Afghan allies as possible. More than 122,000 people have been evacuated from Afghanistan as the withdrawal has come to an end. ABC News political analyst Steve Roberts says the Biden administration has a problem right now with conflicting images.
You have the images of countless refugees coming to America, seeking freedom. Those are positive images. Then you have the images of chaos in Kabul, and you have the images even more profound of the 13 American heroes who were killed in Afghanistan being offloaded, their remains being offloaded.
A new ABC News Ipsos poll shows more than 8 in 10 Americans think U.S. troops should have remained in the country until all Americans are evacuated. And Antony Blinken today saying that there are up to 200 Americans remaining there, but probably closer to 100 still there. A large yellow ribbon pop-up art display made out of umbrellas is on Alki Beach today. It's intended to send a simple message from Seattle to American troops who have been serving in Afghanistan. Come home safe. KOMO's Carlene Johnson spoke with the creator of the display.
The art display consists of yellow umbrellas in the shape of a ribbon, yellow ribbons tied on lampposts along Alki, and the words written in the sand, "Come home safe." 13 American flags in memory of the 13 service members who died last week in the Kabul airport attacks will be placed below.
A line of the 13 names and faces.
Charlotte Stark, who lives in Alki, tells me she could not sleep the night after the attack. And as a former journalist, knowing the power of social media, she wanted to send a message to the courageous American service members still in Afghanistan, hoping images of the display taken from a drone camera and the hashtag yellow umbrellas will spread like wildfire.
I think we can, from coast to coast, paint this nation yellow and just send one message, undivided, unpolitical. Come home safe.
Carlene Johnson, KOMO News.
KOMO News time is 5:08, and dozens of United Airlines Boeing jetliners aren't expected to fly until early next year after one of them lost an engine cover over Colorado in February. The story from KOMO's Greg Hersholt.
The Wall Street Journal reports federal regulators are considering additional safeguards for the 777 jets that are powered by Pratt & Whitney engines before they can carry passengers again. United has 52 of those planes in its fleet. Under consideration is an added engine blade inspection and a modification to prevent engine covers from coming off if a fan blade breaks during flight. Boeing says it has identified design changes and it's working to finalize them. Greg Hersholt, KOMO News.
If you remember the 1998 comedy, There's Something About Mary, you probably remember Jonathan Richman as a guitar player who sings while sitting in a tree.
There's just something about Mary.
Ah, yeah. Well, Richmond had been booked to play Olympia's Love Oli Music Festival over the weekend, but a call to the cult singer the day before the show revealed neither he nor his publicist knew anything about it. The mortified organizers realized the gig had been booked by a scammer pretending to be Richmond. The real Richmond has now emailed the festival to say, hey, no hard feelings, and he'd love to play the festival sometime. KOMO News time, 5:10, and it's time for a check on what's going on in sports from the Beacon Plumbing Sports Desk. And here's Bill Swartz.
Thank you, EJ. Seattle Mariners dropped 3 out of 4 to Kansas City, and boy, they're glad to see the Royals leave. Kyle Seager yesterday with a 2-run bomb to help them win the finale. He's had a taste of meaningful fall baseball back in 2018, one of the few Mariners who has, and hopes his young teammates can benefit from the upcoming competition.
Yeah, I think it's been a good thing going forward. You know, I mean, as long as you get these young guys to kind of learn how you got to do every day to win and, be successful. And, I think that bodes well for the future.
Tonight at T-Mobile Park, 11-5, Chris Flexen on the mound against the powerful Houston Astros. Seattle has called up Jose Marmoleos from AAA Tacoma. He could be playing left field this evening. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports today the Seattle Seahawks have made a trade with Jacksonville to acquire the former Washington Husky corner, Sidney Jones. No official announcement yet from the Hawks, who are trying to whittle their roster down to 53 men by tomorrow afternoon. In 15 minutes on KOMO News Radio, college football games in Seattle and Pullman with real fans returning to watch in person.
Fake crowd noise and the creepy cardboard cutouts. If we ever have a pandemic again, let's not do that.
There's Jimmy Lake, and for the first time ever, beer and wine sales throughout Husky Stadium. We'll tell you all about it at 5:25 on KOMO News.
Thanks, Bill. You've been hearing about the shortage of hospital beds across the Northwest and warnings that if something doesn't change quickly, healthcare as we once knew it will change. KOMO's Brian Calvert has more.
Elective surgeries in most Northwest hospitals have been put on hold. Pat Lancaster hardly believes his procedure is elective.
I found out 10 months ago that I had cancer, and it's progressed, and I'm to the point where I need to have the cancer removed.
That surgery was on the calendar a week ago. Days before it was scheduled to happen, Pat received a phone call from his doctor. Due to the current toll COVID is taking on local hospitals, you're going to have to wait. As you might imagine, Pat is frustrated on many fronts. He has cancer, and it needs to be removed. The clock is ticking. And Pat is ticked off because 90% of the beds at his hospital are filled with people who aren't vaccinated.
I just don't understand why someone that has not been vaccinated gets a bed over me who has cancer and have been waiting for surgery. It's frustrating.
The Spokane man tells KXLY he hasn't been given a new surgery date.
It just doesn't seem right. And I can't do anything about it. I'm helpless. I feel like I'm in limbo.
Pat Lancaster and his wife marked their 43rd anniversary this month and had planned to spend their time together resting at home because Pat was supposed to be recovering from surgery. Instead, they wait and they worry. As many being told to vaccinate or else insist it's a violation of their freedom, Pat wonders about his freedom to do what it takes to survive cancer.
Cancer spreads, and I'm giving this more opportunity to do that, and I'd rather not. So, let's just hope that it doesn't, and I get in and get things done.
Brian Calvert, KOMO News.
Marysville has broken ground on 60 new units of emergency and supportive housing. The project is called Twin Lakes Landing 2 and was put together by the group Housing Hope. CEO Fred Safstrom says it's been a long time coming.
We've been working on this project for a long time, and in fact, we expected to be here today about a year and a half ago.
All units in the new facility are designed to serve families with children. KOMO News Time, 5:14. Let's get caught up on what's happening with the commute. Here's Tama Fulton with our traffic every 10 minutes on the 4s from the Dubin Law Group Traffic Center. Tama.
Well, we're still watching a crash in Shoreline on northbound 5 just before 175th Street. The 8 units were there on the scene blocking the right lane. They've now left. There's still a crash scene on the right shoulder. That's causing a bit of a backup from North Gateway. Southbound 5 coming into downtown Seattle. Watch for a crash on northbound 5 just north of I-90 blocking the left lane. That's causing a backup from Columbian Way. And Kent, good news. Southbound 167's ramp from Kent to Moines Road's been cleared away. There's still some backup from 180th Street in Kent on southbound 167. We still have a crash in Kent on southbound 5 just south of 272nd. It's blocking the right lane. Traffic is backed up all the way from South Center to the scene. That's with a dump truck that's blocking the right lane. Our next KOMO traffic at 524.
We've got a 20% chance of showers this evening. Tomorrow, partly sunny day with temps close to 70 degrees, and then sunshine on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday with temps warming up a little more than that. And we've got 64 at SeaTac at 5:15.
Stay connected. Stay informed. The Northwest's only 24-hour news station. KOMO News 1000, FM 97.7.
Appreciate you being with us this afternoon. I'm Elisa Jaffe. Rick Van Sice taking the day off. Bill O'Neill is our editor. Painter Webb at our technical director right now. And Secretary of State Antony Blinken says a new chapter of America's engagement with Afghanistan has already started. During an address, Blinken noted it will be one in which U.S. leads with diplomacy. And he unveiled steps for the days and weeks ahead, which include suspending the U.S. diplomatic presence in Afghanistan's capital of Kabul and moving operations to Qatar. Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards is not sure when the state will get power again. He told reporters today that utility crews are surveying the damage from Ida and is hopeful an announcement will happen in the near future, but says the main focus is restoring power to hospitals first, which are currently running on generator power. The final U.S. troops have left Afghanistan. The remaining troops flew out of Kabul 1 minute before midnight, or 12:29 our time, ending America's longest war that ran for nearly 20 years.
I'm here to announce the completion of our withdrawal from Afghanistan and the end of the military mission to evacuate American citizens. third country nationals, and vulnerable Afghans.
General Kenneth McKenzie made the announcement today.
Tonight's withdrawal signifies both the end of the military component of the evacuation, but also the end of the nearly 20-year mission that began in Afghanistan shortly after September 11th, 2001.
ABC's Andy Field joins us on the Como Newsline from Washington. It's been a frantic, chaotic pullout, Andy, that's cost the lives of 13 service members, more than 180 Afghans. Tell us what you know about the final airlift.
Well, it was interesting. It was, I think, a C-17 is what the general said. Last C-17 giant transport plane lifted off from Karzai International Airport. Basically, as you mentioned, just before midnight on the 31st, the deadline that the U.S. had set by President Biden, as well as what the Taliban were demanding. The general said that, frankly, they might not have been able to do this without the help of the Taliban, that the Taliban secured the outside of the airport as they were leaving. They didn't tell them exactly when they were going to go. It was one of these lights-out operations. The U.S. destroyed, or as they said, demilitarized a whole lot of equipment in the hundreds of millions of dollars in U.S. taxpayer equipment, including many, many aircraft that they made so they were not able to ever fly again, along with some other things. But they did leave some things on the ground at Hamid Karzai International Airport, mostly things that would service other airplanes. And there was a reason for that. The U.S. wants that airport to continue to be able to work for civilian flights so that if any other Afghans want to leave there, and the Taliban did say that if they have those special immigration visas, they would be allowed to leave, as well as any Americans still left there. The question is, how many Americans are still left there? The U.S. really isn't sure about that. The estimates now are maybe a few hundred, and most of them have decided not to leave because they either have dual passports with both countries or they have family there and they just didn't want to go out.
Are there any that did want to leave that couldn't get out?
We don't know the answer to that question yet. It doesn't appear that that is the case. The U.S. has worked pretty hard to find those people and get them out. In fact, they were doing that right up until almost the last flight out of Afghanistan left today. And many of them are en route either back to the United States or to second countries. They're not being specific about what countries there are, but that doesn't mean that all U.S. aircraft are out of Afghan airspace. The U.S. has reserved the right to launch airstrikes against not necessarily the Taliban, but ISIS-K, the group that launched the strike that killed Americans this week, as well as remnants of Al-Qaeda. And if those groups present another threat, those flyovers by U.S. aircraft based in other countries right now will be set to strike them.
And what about the Afghans who had the paperwork that helped us during this 20-year war that have been left behind? What are we doing for them?
Well, basically, the general that you played earlier said he'd like to bring everyone out that wanted to come out. They were not able to do it because the situation wouldn't allow it. He said he think they did a very good job of getting everyone that they could given the situation. He continuously pointed to the fact that this probably would have gone much more smoothly. American lives may not have been lost had it not been for the fact that the Afghan government collapsed in a matter of days and hours, as well as the Afghan military that the U.S. had spent 20 years training simply laid down its arms and didn't fight. And that was a big security buffer zone that the U.S. had depended on for this withdrawal, and that changed in a matter of days, and so did the U.S. mission.
ABC's Andy Field joining us from Washington. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks.
Jim Chesko now with our Propel Insurance Money Update.
Stocks finished mostly higher, with both the S&P 500 and NASDAQ Composite up 19 and 136 points, respectively, earning fresh closing highs. But the Dow Industrial slipped 55 points. The buy now, pay later platform Affirm has announced a major new partnership with Amazon. The tie-up, quietly announced last Friday, will help customers of the e-commerce behemoth finance large purchases. Many customers getting the option to split the total cost of purchases of $50 or more into monthly payments by using Affirm, shares of which soared 46% today. After having to scrap live shows last year amid the pandemic, Trans-Siberian Orchestra will be back in arenas this fall and winter performing its popular Christmas concerts. TSO will do 2 shows at Climate Pledge Arena on November 27th. Tickets on sale September 17th. That's Your Money Now. I'm Jim Chesko, Como News.
Money News at 20 and 50 past the hour. An update on traffic next.
For a look back at the week's top news stories from the radio news team, listen to KOMO's This Week podcast and never miss a thing. Stay connected. Stay informed with KOMO's This Week. Go to KOMOnews.com/podcasts. KOMOnews.com/podcasts.